question number 5. This is a 4-year-old with underdeveloped fine motor skills. He gets very frustrated when he plays with toys, but he can't get them to move in the way that he wants them to move. He throws and stomps them on the ground while shouting. When this happens, the parent gets up and helps him move the toys, and this helps to calm him down. And after the toys are cleaned up, he gets louder and louder with his protests. The first thing is you're doing something wrong here, okay? And what you're doing wrong is the child is already engaging in misbehavior, and what you're doing is you're reinforcing that misbehavior. Why? When I misbehave like this, my mom or my dad's gonna come here and help me do the stuff. So it ends up being very functional for the child. Oh, this is how I get my parents to come and help me. Once the misbehavior occurs, for me, what I do is like, no throwing their toys. You lost them. You take the toy away from them. You have them sit down until they're done and calm again. In order to teach them to ask for help appropriately, then you have to be observant and you have to be paying attention when they're playing with their toys so that you can catch the moment they start being frustrated with something, and then you're prompting them to ask you for help. That's what you're looking to do in real life situations, is like you're paying attention. When they start to get frustrated, that's when you come in, you tell them, Oma, Appa, help me. You know, you're doing something to teach them how to communicate when they need help. Separately, you can also teach them how to ask for help outside of those conditions, because maybe it's harder to recreate when they get frustrated, because you never know when they'll get frustrated with a toy, because you don't know, what piece they might be missing, or how hard it is for one toy to not move in the direction. So it might be hard to recreate, and it might be too busy in your everyday lives to tackle in the moment. If that's the case, then you have to set up situations where you're going to make a situation where they for sure need your help, and then you're going to prompt them to ask for that help. Situations that you might set up is, you give them a water bottle that they can't open. You give them something that they can't do by themselves, and then you prompt them to ask for you to help them. Overall, to improve fine motor skills, there's a number of different things that you can do to help your child improve in those areas. You can totally see the difference between a child that has fine motor delays and a child that does not. So my son has all kinds of fine motor delays. My daughter does not. At the same age, my son still has a hard time coordinating all of his fingers, while my daughter, very good at coordinating all of her fingers. For my son, whenever we ask him to do something, he's using his whole hand to do stuff, and he doesn't know which fingers. So even when he only needs these 2 fingers, all the other fingers are out in front of him. My daughter, as soon as she knows she has to do something, boom, these fingers go in, and then she's only using these 2 primary fingers so that nothing gets in the way of coordinating everything. One of the things that we do in the very beginning is imitation of these fine motor movements, So getting the child to even be able to imitate all of these type of hand and finger movements is one of the first things that we teach them to be able to do to increase their ability to coordinate all of those fingers. For kids that lack strength in their hands, then we use something called therapy. And maybe that's something, there's probably, I know we order some from Amazon for a lot of our kids. Maybe we'll find the links and put it in there. But there's therapy that we use. And so it ranges from really soft and easy, and it gets progressively stronger and more difficult. And so you're working on the child's strength, you know? And so with that, we might put marbles inside the therapy, and they have to really move all their hands and all their fingers to find those marbles, you know? But that's building in strength and endurance with those muscle groups. There are also clips, okay? They're like clothespins, but they also are graded from easy to very hard, right? And so we start with the easiest ones, and we teach them how to close these hands and close these fingers and be able to grab stuff appropriately and work on the pincher strength. When you're practicing these things, then you have to make sure the child is practicing the right muscles. Just like, oh, when you go and exercise, and if you don't know what you're doing, you could exercise all the wrong parts of the body, things that you're like, oh, I wasn't intending to do that, you know? And so here, when you're working on the pincher grasp, what you have to be careful of, the kids like to cheat, you know? So here, at that first segment, that's where they're strongest. The pad is where they're weak. So you have to make sure both pads are opposite of each other and that they're squeezing it here, rather than them cheating and using and turning their thumb so that it's easier for them to open and close that clothespin.